Hello and welcome back. Everything that we've looked at so far has been around live data, so now we're going to take a look at how we can get historical data and also how we can graph that. So this first video is just going to be about how to set up a database so that we can start storing this data that's in SignalK, coming from your sensors and things, into a database. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to need to do is to enable a couple of services. So if we go to the Dashboards app, we're going to need to make sure that we've got InfluxDB installed. So this one also has a graphical package with it as well. I've not got much experience with that, so I've used Grafana, so I've installed both of these. So to do that, click on them and then click the install button, wait for the process to finish, come back, and then if you want to install Grafana, which will be a quick 5-minute video on after, install Grafana at the same time. Once they've been installed, you need to ensure that the processes are running. So for me, I don't actually need these two now because I've got my database running and Grafana running as well so that I can do my graphs. But the middle two services I've disabled. But to configure the database, these need to be running, so we'll start those now. Okay, so once these two are installed, the easiest way to actually get into the InfluxDB is to actually click the open button here. This is slightly different to some of the access to the other plugins and things, and I just can't remember the port number off the top of my head, so that's probably the easiest way in. There you go, 8889. So as I say, this is also a package to do dashboards in, and you can create things that are very similar to Grafana in here. So I'm just going to use this tool to configure the database. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to InfluxDB admin and I'm going to create a database with a name that I want. So I've actually done that, and mine's called Influx1 here. So you click on here, click on create database. Just call it test. And my database is created here. So we now need to reference that. We now need to start writing actual data into that database. I'm just going to take this one away because I don't want to use test. So now if we head back to SignalK, that's another thing to mention. Sometimes the menu on the left is much shorter. That's if you're not logged in, so just make sure that you're logged in and you'll get additional features and functionality. Okay, so now we need to head to server and plugins. So you'll see here there's an InfluxDB writer, so this SignalK will output data direct to your Influx database. So if we open that up, you can leave all this on its defaults, but what you have got to change is that there. That needs to be the database name that you've just created. You've also got another couple of options on how fast it writes to the database, so that's another thing to consider, is how much data you're going to send to this, because you're storing it on an SD card, so you are limited the number of read-writes you can do to a card, and obviously you're also limited by size. So do take a bit of time to think about what you want to send. Don't necessarily send everything. So this can be done in two ways. You can either whitelist, as it says here, and only the things that are listed will be sent, or you can blacklist, and all the things except the ones listed below will be stored in the database. And that's what I've done. I've started to go through and take some of that out of the database because I don't need any of this. For example, the vessels draft doesn't need to head to the database. Once that's done, hit submit, and then you'll start to see data going across to your database. And you can see here that the service has started if you go to the dashboard.